We are back. One more stage of the PGL Copenhagen major remaining, the playoffs. And it is time for us to dive into our pick'ems. I'm not going to gloat because unfortunately the first stage means I have really nothing to be proud about, but 5 in the elimination stage. Very happy with that. Would be happier if I didn't get a meager 3 in the opening stage, but we move on. Diamond's great, yeah. Gold's also perfectly fine. Anyway, quarterfinals. Who do we see going through? Let's start off in a linear fashion. Cloud9 versus Vitality. Obviously a rematch of what was decided game back at the RMR. Cloud9 did get the better Vitality, but I'm gonna kind of disregard that in a certain extent because completely different scenario. This is on a big stage in front of a crowd in a major quarterfinal, no less. Anytime I've put my trust in Cloud9, they've disappointed me. But I think we're slowly but surely seeing potentially maybe a more stable Cloud9. The AWPing situation, obviously, there's so many question marks with that moving forward. But Hobbit looked great in the first stage. Axel really showed up in the elimination sage. It is the AWP versus AWP battle for me in this duel, which leads me to have to side with Vitality. I know that their road wasn't the smoothest to make it through to the top 8, but I've got to believe in Vitality truly peaking at the right time. They're a team that I trust to do that. They did it back in Paris. They had a great end out to 2023 with this exact roster as well. And I'm hoping that Zoe's has some time to maybe feel a little bit better. No, it wasn't feeling too hot during the stage of the tournament, but got 3 days, indulge in some small ball, some Faxi Condi, get all the Danish goodness in you, because you're gonna win versus Cloud9. Team Spirit versus FaZe, I'm so hyped for this one. Not only a rematch of obviously the Katowice Grand Final best of 5, but just looking at the namesake of these two orgs, what a banger of a game that was back in Antwerp in the semifinals. But 2 entirely different narratives. It's obviously a different situation from what we saw in Kato because that was a best of 5. It was truly a test of stamina. But I still think Spirit will edge this one. Of course, Carrigan is going to be so damn hungry to be taking revenge. We saw the tears, the emotions that were coming out of him after that loss in Katowice just a few weeks ago, but I think Spirit in unbelievable form right now. Anybody would be amiss to assume otherwise, and they showed that the nerves don't affect them on stage. No issues picking Spirit in that one. This is where things get a little bit weird and wacky. Eternal Fire versus Na'Vi. My head is saying Na'Vi should, in theory, win this. Eternal Fire are obviously the biggest underdog, the most unexpected team, I think, out of all these 8 to be making it through. But my heart really, really wants to pick them. I know it sounds crazy because only one of these guys has ever been to a major playoffs before. Woxic, back in 2018. At the Face It London major. Na'Vi, on the other hand, have, the experience across the board of making it into a major playoffs. Obviously not with this 5-man lineup together. I'm not totally sure that I'm sold on a consistent Na'Vi yet, so I'm gonna follow my heart on this one. It's fine, I only need to make 2 correct pick'ems on the quarterfinals. I don't know. I believe they're gonna do it. I'm loving the passion, the energy. They're super hungry to continue making history for their region, obviously. MOUZ, G2. This is kind of another head and heart one, which sounds kind of weird, but I think G2 have a similar ilk to FaZe of where they really come alive on these big LAN stages. Obviously that sounds kind of stupid because I picked Spirit over FaZe. I think that's a whole different ball game when you're talking about Spirit versus basically anybody, but G2 have that kind of similar trait. They live and breathe on these big stages. They're so damn experienced. They've made so many deep runs. But MOUZ is really piquing my interest just because of the fashion that they made it here. Only dropping 3 rounds versus Complexity. That's absolute insanity, which makes me go to follow my heart once again. MOUZ, young Jimmy on his first ever major playoff stage. I think he's going to absolutely lap it up. Semifinals, Vitality versus Spirit. Oh, I think you all know how much I love my boy Zayu, but Spirit is just such a tricky one to be betting against at the moment. I don't think I would have the same faith, which might be stating the obvious, if they didn't perform so dominantly back in Katowice, if they didn't look like they couldn't give less of a shit if they were on a big stage. Like, we were building this narrative of surely they feel the nerves. They said no, and they proved that. So I'm gonna go with Spirit in this one. I think the defending major champions, albeit in a different iteration of Counter-Strike, are going to be falling in the semifinals. Eternal Fire versus Mouse. This is where I think Mouse will take the edge. This kind of makes me seem crazy. Look, it doesn't even want to let me do it. Is this wild? I don't know. You know what? I kind of have nothing to lose because of the opening stage, so I can afford to gamble on my heart. But my head will get the better of me in this one. I think Spirit are going to be your first CS2 major champions. I think Donk is going to be lifting yet another trophy high above his head. And Chopper is finally going to get the major credit that he deserves, having spent so much time in this game. And that's what I'm going to do. Team Spirit are winning the CS2 major.